Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I stand before you with a heavy heart, but with an unshakable resolve. What happened at our ICE facilities was not just an attack on brave men and women in uniform. It was an attack on justice, on order, and on the very principle that keeps our communities safe. This is not the moment for silence. This is not the moment for hesitation. This is the moment for courage. And I promise you this, we will face this threat with strength, with clarity, and with the full weight of the law. Because when our nation's guardians are targeted, every American is targeted. And I want you to listen closely, because tonight isn't about politics. It's about truth, it's about justice, and it's about the future of our country. And by the time we finish, you will know exactly why we must act, why we must unite, and why we will win. When an act of violence strikes at the very heart of our institutions, we cannot afford to downplay its meaning or treat it as an isolated tragedy. What happened at our ICE facilities was not merely an incident contained within four walls. It was an attack on the sanctity of law and order, on the safety of every family that relies on those who put their lives at risk to protect this nation. We must be clear about this. When you target the men and women charged with enforcing the law, you are not simply targeting individuals. You are attempting to weaken the very fabric that holds our society together. This is why urgency is not optional. This is why hesitation would be dangerous. Every American deserves to live in a nation where justice is not just promised, but enforced, where law is not just written on paper, but carried out in action. The shooting at our ICE facility shook that foundation, and it reminded us of a painful truth, that there are those who do not fear chaos, who do not fear breaking the law, who do not fear endangering innocent lives. And when they act on that disregard, it is not just the officers who carry the weight of the danger. It is every citizen who pays the price. This is why protecting national security must never be seen as an abstract idea. It is personal, it is urgent, and it is the responsibility of every leader to treat it with the seriousness it demands. Imagine the fear and uncertainty that rippled through those facilities, the weight felt by families who knew their loved ones were working inside. Imagine the message it sends to every officer who wears the badge, knowing that they have become targets simply because they chose to uphold the law. That is not just unacceptable, it is intolerable. And that is why we must not wait for another act of violence to wake us up to the dangers that already exist. Protecting our officers, strengthening our facilities, and defending our laws must be our immediate and unwavering priority. This is not just about responding to violence after it occurs. It is about ensuring that violence does not find fertile ground to grow in the first place. The safety of our nation depends on the strength of our response and the clarity of our commitment. Weakness invites aggression. Silence emboldens lawlessness, but strength, firmness, and the willingness to act decisively, those are the forces that stop chaos in its tracks. That is the kind of leadership this moment demands, and that is the kind of resolve we must embody right now. When we talk about national security, we must understand that it is not only about borders or threats from outside our nation, it is also about protecting our institutions from within. The enemies of order know that if they can shake the confidence of law enforcement, if they can make officers feel abandoned or unsupported, they can weaken the shield that stands between chaos and safety. That cannot and will not be allowed to happen. Yet the urgent responsibility we have today is to send a message so strong, so unmistakable, that those who dare to attack will know their efforts will only be met with swift justice and unyielding consequences. This is not only a matter of safety. It is a matter of principle. The men and women who serve in our ICE facilities are not faceless enforcers. They are fathers, mothers, daughters, sons. They carry a badge, yes, but they also carry the weight of responsibility to uphold laws that keep communities secure. They deserve not only our gratitude, but our full protection. To fail them would be to fail every American family who relies on their service. To leave them vulnerable would be to admit that violence can dictate the future of our country. And I refuse to accept that. The urgency of this moment cannot be overstated. Every second that passes without decisive action risks further emboldening those who see law enforcement as an enemy rather than as guardians. Every delay sends the wrong signal, that perhaps attacks can go unanswered, that perhaps the system can be bent under the weight of intimidation. But let me be clear, that will not happen. Justice will not be delayed. Security will not be compromised, and order will not be surrendered to chaos. Our national security begins at home, in how we protect our institutions, how we safeguard our officers, and how we respond to those who believe violence is a tool to achieve their ends. This shooting was an attack, but it will also serve as a line in the sand. It will remind us that while danger is real, our determination is stronger. And while enemies of order may rise, they will always fall when confronted with a nation that refuses to back down. Because when our guardians are under attack, every citizen is under attack. And if we do not act with urgency now, then we fail not only those who serve, but the generations who depend on us to keep this nation safe. That is a failure we cannot and will not allow. The time for hesitation has passed. The time for courage is here. Deploying the Department of Justice is not a symbolic gesture. It is a direct and powerful response to a direct and dangerous threat. When an attack takes place at an ICE facility, when men and women who wear the badge are targeted simply for doing their jobs, it is not enough to express outrage or offer condolences. Words alone will not protect the people who stand on the front lines of justice. Words alone will not stop the next act of violence. What is required is action, swift, strategic, and uncompromising. That is why the deployment of the Department of Justice is not only justified, it is absolutely necessary. The DOJ represents the strength of our legal system, the very foundation that ensures accountability is never optional. By bringing its full weight to ICE facilities, we send a message that no one will escape justice, no matter how brazen the attack or how calculated the crime. This is not about politics. It is about principle. It is about showing, in no uncertain terms, that this nation will not tolerate threats against those who enforce its laws. For every officer who leaves home each day unsure if they will return, the DOJ stands as a shield of justice, ensuring that if they are attacked, the consequences will be swift and severe. When the Department of Justice steps in, it transforms outrage into enforcement. It takes the grief of a shaken community and channels it into action. It ensures that the safety of our officers is not left to chance, but to the deliberate power of a system designed to punish those who believe they can strike fear into the heart of our institutions. And this deployment is not reactionary, it is preventative. It is about more than responding to what has already happened. It is about creating an environment where would-be attackers know that any attempt to undermine law and order will meet the strongest possible resistance. There are those who might question whether such a move is too strong, too forceful. But let me ask, how much is too much when the lives of our officers are on the line? How much is too much when the security of our communities depends on our ability to stand firm? There is no such thing as overprotecting those who protect us. There is no such thing as being too committed to defending the people who carry the burden of enforcing our laws. Deploying the DOJ is not excessive, it is proportional. It is the only answer that matches the seriousness of the threat. This deployment also sends an unmistakable message to the officers themselves. You are not alone. Too often, those who serve feel the weight of danger without the reassurance that their government stands fully behind them. Too often, sacrifices are made quietly, with little recognition of the risks involved. But by placing the Department of Justice directly into this fight, we are making it clear that their mission is our mission, their safety is our priority, and their courage will not go unsupported. The strongest deterrent to violence is not only the threat of punishment, it is the knowledge that the entire machinery of justice stands united in defense of those who serve. We must also recognize that this deployment has another purpose: restoring confidence. After a shooting like this, fear and doubt ripple through both the officers and the public. Communities wonder if their protectors are safe. Families of officers question whether their loved ones are adequately protected, and attackers begin to believe that they can dictate the terms of order. Deploying the DOJ shuts down those doubts. It proves that the system does not fracture under pressure, it hardens. It proves that violence does not create weakness, it sparks greater strength. The role of the DOJ here is not simply enforcement, it is reassurance. It is about showing the American people that the rule of law is alive, unshaken, and fully capable of defending itself against those who wish to undermine it. It is about making sure that the next time someone contemplates such an attack, they know they will not just face local consequences, but the full force of federal justice. That clarity is what restores peace. That clarity is what keeps officers strong, communities secure, and criminals on notice. This deployment is also about unity, because no matter our political differences, no matter our debates on policy, we should all agree on this one truth. Violence against those who protect us cannot be tolerated. When DOJ stands with ICE, it is not just one agency supporting another. It is the government standing behind the rule of law. It is a declaration that our institutions will defend themselves with precision, with strength, and with relentless determination. So let it be clear to those who think violence can shake our resolve. Every action you take will be met with a stronger, sharper, and more unyielding response. The Department of Justice is not being deployed as a symbol. It is being deployed as a force. And through that force, we reaffirm the promise that no attack will go unanswered, no threat will go unchecked, and no enemy of justice will ever prevail. The only path forward is action, and action is exactly what we are taking. Every time a man or woman steps into an ICE facility, they are stepping into a role that demands courage, discipline, and an extraordinary sense of duty. They are not walking into comfort or ease. They are walking into uncertainty, into risk, into the possibility that today may be the day danger meets them face to face. And they make that choice not for glory, not for recognition, but because they believe in the responsibility they carry for this country. They are guardians of law, enforcers of order, and defenders of safety. When they are attacked, when their facilities are targeted, it is our moral obligation to stand behind them, unwavering and without hesitation. Too often, we take for granted the men and women who wear the badge. We see them only in moments of crisis, when tragedy forces us to notice their sacrifice. But their service is not occasional. It is constant. It is every day, every night, every hour that they remain vigilant so that others can live with peace of mind. And the truth is, their job does not end when their shift does. Their families carry the weight with them. Their children live with the knowledge that their parents' work comes with danger. Their spouses know that every goodbye at the door carries the risk of being the last. To honor these officers means honoring not only their bravery, but the sacrifices made by the people who love them. When we say we stand behind law enforcement, those words must translate into action. They must be more than applause in times of tragedy. They must mean resources, training, protection, and the assurance that when attacks happen, justice will be swift. These officers cannot fight alone. They cannot be expected to uphold the law while doubting whether the system stands behind them. Our commitment to them must be clear and absolute. We will give them what they need, we will protect them as they protect us, and we will ensure their sacrifice is met with unshakable support. Think about the courage it takes for an officer to walk into a facility that has just been the target of violence. Think about the resilience it takes to continue serving, knowing that there are those who want to see you silenced, weakened, or afraid. That courage is not ordinary. It is extraordinary. It is extraordinary. It is the kind of courage that defines the spirit of this nation. And it is why we must not only recognize their bravery, but reinforce it with our collective strength. We must remind them that they are not alone on the front lines, that the full weight of this nation's will stands beside them. An attack on law enforcement is not just an attack on individuals. It is an attack on the idea of justice itself. It is an attempt to intimidate, to weaken, to make officers second-guess their mission. And that is precisely why our response must be one of defiance, not fear. Standing behind law enforcement means ensuring that these attacks do not succeed in their purpose. It means showing that no matter how dark the moment, the badge will never be diminished, the mission will never be abandoned, and the officers who carry that mission will never be left vulnerable. There will always be those who try to sow division, who try to pit communities against the officers who serve them. But the reality is simple. Without these men and women, there is no safety, there is no order, there is no protection for the innocent. They're not perfect. No human being is, but they are indispensable. They stand between chaos and calm, between danger and security. And they do it willingly at great personal cost. To turn our backs on them in moments of crisis would be nothing short of betrayal. We must remember that the badge they wear is more than metal. It is a symbol of trust. It represents a promise that laws will be enforced, that justice will be upheld, that communities will be protected. That trust goes both ways. Just as they commit themselves to us, we must commit ourselves to them. Freda, that is how the bond between law enforcement and the public is strengthened. Not with words, but with loyalty, with investment, with tangible action that proves we mean what we say. When we say we will stand behind law enforcement, that promise must echo in everything we do. Must echo in the resources we provide, in the security we strengthen, in the consequences we deliver to those who threaten them. It must echo in our willingness to declare that an attack on one officer is an attack on every citizen who values law, safety, and order. It must echo in the confidence that no officer will ever feel abandoned in the line of duty. What takes its place is resilience, an unshakable belief that no matter what comes against us, we will stand taller, stronger, and more united than before. That is the victory we seek, not only to protect our institutions, but to remind everyone that America does not break under pressure. We rise. It is also important to understand that restoring confidence is not a one-time act. It is a continual responsibility. Every step we take, every measure we enforce, every stand we make against those who threaten law and order contributes to the rebuilding of trust. And it is not enough for leaders to speak about it. We must live it, demonstrate it, embody it. Because confidence grows when promises are kept, when actions match words, when people see that justice is not just declared but delivered. In the end, the choice is simple. We can allow violence to divide us, to plant seeds of fear and mistrust, or we can let it galvanize us, pushing us closer together in our resolve to defend what we know is right. And when we choose unity, when we choose confidence, when we choose to stand together in defiance of violence, we not only restore faith and justice, we protect the very soul of this nation. The world is watching how we respond, and so are the generations that will follow. Let them see that in this moment we chose strength over weakness, unity over division, courage over fear. And let them see that when justice was threatened, we did not falter, we did not break, and we did not give in. We stood together and we prevailed.